Sorry, that threw it out.
Oops. It went back to non-slideshow.
Yeah, give it a second. It popped it out again.
All right, looks good now. Welcome to the Why Voting Matters program. Thank you all for your time and your interest tonight. We're going to start off with a brief overview of the initiative to get all Essex County high school seniors registered to vote and to plant the fire in the belly desire to want to vote in every election. And I just want to make this clear. This is not a voter education or a voter registration event. It is really an avenue to create lifelong and engaged voters, which is what makes our program so different than the other programs that are out there. We will also provide a rollout of what we've done since I know a lot of us gathered back in December 15th in person. We already have 2 high schools on the calendar, one in Nutley on February 17th and one in Bloomfield on April 19th. We also have an opportunity to go back to NJ Leap in Newark. I believe that's for the 3rd time. So that's great. And since we want to hear from all of you, everybody I know has a lot of questions because I've gotten a lot of calls and emails. We are planning to have the presentation be around 30 minutes and then have 30 minutes of questions and comments from you all. So we'll start off with Barry Ehrlich, who is the co-creator of the program. And also, if you have a burning desire to volunteer, when you hear anybody speaking, feel free to put that in the chat and we will follow up with you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Yeah, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Barry Ehrlich, former high school teacher and principal and current school consultant, and a big believer in the power and wisdom of young people. And so the impetus for this program really was that a sense that simply having the opportunity for students to register to vote and vote isn't sufficient because there's some mindsets that are really getting in the way of students voting and young people voting. And that was based on 2 obstacles for them. One, thinking that voting doesn't really affect their life, that political issues don't really affect their life in a direct way, and that ultimately their vote doesn't matter. And so, as you can see, that really prompted the 2 essential questions that were at the heart of developing this. Can voting affect your life, and does your vote matter? And we all know the answer to those questions is yes and yes. But it's not about just telling that to young people. It's about giving them the opportunities to experience and learn in a real, authentic sort of way. And that's where we're coming from with this. So you can see that the overarching learning goals, and I'll just give you a few seconds. I don't need to read them out loud to you, but you can take a look at them. I'll just give everybody a few seconds to do that. Okay, so the lesson that we developed, the session that we developed was originally 90 minutes. And we did that really initially with the New Jersey LEAP program, which is basically a legal internship program for high school students in Newark. And there's a lot of civic engagement and civic empowerment built into that program. And it's a wonderful partnership. We've done 2 virtual presentations, and we're finally going to get there in person this year. They also have an 8th grade summer program that they're starting for the first time this summer, and they very much want us to partner with them on that as well. So we had developed it as a 90-minute module, and we have done that 90-minute both virtually and in person at a number of places. And the more that we get out to schools, not surprisingly, the more that a shorter period of time is something that is really viable for the schools that we're talking to, and that's understandable. We know 1 class period, roughly 45 to 50 minutes. So we've got a 45-minute option as well. The major components of the lesson really have to do with having kids be involved in debates around issues, sort of mini debates, where they are exploring and arguing, discussing both sides of issues that really affect young people. And the ones that we've used recently has been book banning in school libraries, and also whether the voting age should be reduced to 16. And so these are issues, and young people are very engaged with a wide range of issues. We know that. The challenge is just to find an entry point with them and make a connection with them. And so a part of the presentation has to do with exploring issues. The other part has to do with the power of your vote, the impact of a small number of voters and the disproportionate power that gives a small number of voters, how close elections can be and have been and continue to be. And we do this with some participatory activities that, again, it's not a lecture. It is really having students engaged in the learning. And so the optimal situation for this is really about 20 to 30 students because it's participatory. And if we get larger than that, a number of schools have wanted to go larger than that. They want to do, an assembly of 100, 200 students. And so we really need to educate them about what the framework of this is and why the goals of it really reflect the need for small groups. I'll talk a little bit later about the idea of expanding the training pool or the trainer pool to other students in a sort of train the trainer model, which can help start to hit some of those larger numbers. And again, we can do this in person or remotely. So I'm going to hold off now. That's the real broad brush of the lesson. And we'll talk more a little bit later on about some other curricular ideas that we have as well.
Okay, thanks, Barry. And we'll move on to the presenters. That's one of the core parts of the program here. Unfortunately, Nicole Prasad and Brittany Claybrooks, who are from AKA and weren't able to make it. They had a sorority conflict meeting. So Joe Jett is going to pinch hit for them.
Hi, everybody. So as you can see, we currently have 22 presenters, but we would love to have a full roster of presenters who are fully trained in time for rollout. The idea being that we have enough to cover multiple schools and schedules across all of our towns. Wanted everyone to know that no one will be sent in unprepared. We do have a protocol, as you can see here, for how we will be training people. So we don't want anyone to feel nervous about it. Anyone that's trained will be totally fluent in the material before they go in on their own. Critically, everyone must commit to presenting and responding to the audience as completely nonpartisan as possible so that we can maintain our credibility as we roll this out. And that's so if anyone's interested in doing this, raise your hand or we'll, get in touch with us, because the more people we can train, the better.
Thanks, Joe. So Joyce Harley with Shelley Harris from the Deltas are heading up the scheduling component of this project, and Joyce is going to talk about the schedulers.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. The good news is that we've been very well received by the school districts throughout Essex County. There are one or two that still need to be wrapped up in terms of their response to our request to open their schools to us. And the best way I've found to reach the school districts is through the superintendent, who then maps it down to the principals who talk about the various classes that would fit the bill. Most people think of social studies, but some of the principals have indicated that their history classes that they think would be ripe for this training. Some school districts, particularly one school in East Orange, is very interested in doing it auditorium or assembly style, and Barry's shared with us that might not be the best way to proceed. So Shelley and I will circle back to try to persuade him to let us do it classroom by classroom. We're only doing juniors and seniors because, we want them by the end of the program to register to vote, either on their phones because they can do it digitally, or if we're in their media centers where they're at the computers, they can do it there. But we will make sure that we schedule you to schools. We've heard from like I said, every district other than 2, and we're working very hard to make sure that they understand the importance of what we're doing, sign on to what we're doing, and then support us as we come into the schools for that 1 hour. And I've been sharing with them and using a phrase, an hour of power for your students, and they seem to like that. It seems to resonate with them. And we will make sure that everybody that wants to present will have the opportunity to present. Certain districts want us to start in March, so we will share that with everybody as we wrap up the dates and times for the presentations, and make sure that we meet our mission of registering every eligible high school student so that they can vote, and would be great if they could all vote in the April school board elections and then on into the rest of the year. So I'm going to turn it over to Shelley to add anything that, it's been great working with her, add anything that she wants to add. Shelley?
Sorry about that. Nothing to add. You've done a fine job. I can't wait. We're excited.
So I just want to add a plug that we have 18 schedules that are covering all the towns in Essex County, but we still need Irvington and Milburn has no one covering them at this point. And Newark has so many schools. We do have a few folks working on Newark, but there are so many schools we can always use more help in Newark.
Yeah, I said there were only 2, and because I did, Susan, after I spoke with you, I did speak with Irvington. They are,
great.
yes, I did speak with Irvington. I went, and I know we're nonpartisan, so I just went through the councilwoman who I know. She got in touch with the superintendent who called me and said, oh yes, nobody ever called us before. We want to do this, so we will work with them. So it's still just Milburn. We haven't heard from yet, and we're waiting to schedule for the schools in Newark.
Great.
And their superintendent is at a conference. Mr. Leone is at a conference. So when he comes back tomorrow, hopefully he will respond. If he doesn't, Shelley and I will respond to him to get Newark and their schools on board, because they have a lot of high schools, unlike the other districts in our county.
Great, thanks, Joyce. So back to you, Barry, about content creation and the other things you have working on.
All right. So I think what's really important to keep in mind is that this is just a first step. This lesson is a first step. If our goal is really to empower a generation of civic activists and have students really become skilled in democracy, it's more than a 45-minute or 90-minute presentation. So this has great value, and it's a great foundation. And I think there is a charge for us to take it farther. And so there's a number of possibilities that I've talked with a few folks in the league about. Certainly, as we get a content creation subcommittee, this is the work that we really need to be discussing where we go from here. But I'll share a few things that have come up or that have been offered by some of the schools that we've been working with. The most obvious is to create a part 2. There just really needs to be a follow-up lesson. Schools that have had us come in, like Orange High School or New Jersey Leap, they love this session and they want another one, and they just want to continue the work, and they don't want to just drop it after one presentation. So we need to think about what that looks like and where that goes. But I think this format of a 45-minute standalone session is really a good fit for what schools are looking for. They're not looking for long-term multi-session commitments. They're looking for a couple of things that they can plug in. So another piece, an extension of that, would be just to create a bank of lessons focusing on civic engagement and youth empowerment. So as many as we can come up with, whether it's sequential or whether we have different strands that we offer to schools with different focus points, is an open question, but we certainly need more curriculum. And the schools have been clear that they want more. One of the things that has been raised with a couple of schools that we've been in is not just us coming in and presenting a session, but really helping to establish a club, an extracurricular that's really student-owned and student-run around civic engagement and taking political actions. And so the focus would be on developing their skill set so they can then, in a very student-centric sort of way, choose actions that are relevant to their goals, to their lives, that are viable to achieve, and can start to get them feeling confident about themselves as democratic actors. There's a number of the schools have shown an interest in that. And so I think that's a really exciting, for me, a super exciting direction to go in, because it's really, that's got some legs. I mean, that can really last well beyond our presence in the school, which is the ultimate objective, of course. Just to the point about 200, 300 students, entire, senior classes that schools want us to address, that has led to discussions about having other students trained in the schools so that they can go and they can deliver this to their peers, which, I mean, that's a win-win. And we know that that's probably going to have the most impact of any way to deliver this curriculum. So I think that's something really well worth looking at, is a train the trainer program for the students. And I think there's also just an opportunity and a need for us to start hearing from teachers and administrators and expand our thinking about what schools need in this arena. We've got our perspective on it, but I think that perspective needs to be broadened. And so I think we just need to build into our content creation, getting just regular feedback and input from students and teachers and administrators around what their needs are and how we can best meet them. So that's the thinking right now, and it's wide open to other directions as well.
Thanks, Barry. Yes, we had a situation with Orange where we spoke to the Orange department chair in the social studies, and he wanted to go in all these different directions, reach out to the students, the parents of the grade school students, and he had all kinds of ideas. So that's creating the relationship and fanning this out is very much part of the program. So is Amy McCampbell here? I know she was maybe able to join. We have a publicity.
I'm here. I'm
Great.
camera off, but I'm here.
Yeah, go for it, Amy.
So I'm just going to read what we're doing. We're going to develop the PR schools, which are the PR materials explaining the program for schools, community organizations, and Susan and I were talking about, creating some fun graphics, like with Canva or something. Outreach to local media outlets to let them know what we're doing. Any help in that respect, anybody who has context would be awesome to hear from. And then develop social media campaign to generate more volunteers. And I've been doing a lot of social media work. So hopefully I can do that for us.
Great, thanks, Amy. And the next one is data research. And unfortunately, Sarita wasn't able to make it, and Roberta, I just spoke to her today about it. So Donna's going to run with this slide.
Hi, yes, the data needs are, we need to, we use data in the presentations, and part of what we were trying to do is when we go in there is to keep it focused on, once we get kids registered to vote, on whatever the upcoming election is in their district. So, and we also share recent voter registration data, New Jersey voter registration and election data. So we do need people to, keep us up to date in terms of what are the latest statistics in terms of voter turnout in New Jersey. What are the upcoming elections this year? Obviously, we're going to be heavily focused on the state assembly, all the local offices that are up for election up here in northern New Jersey. We actually have some of our districts are changing. So there's a lot of education that we need to do around that. So we want to make sure that we take the opportunity that these kids know exactly what the primaries, who's running in their local primaries, who's running in their general election, and how do they find out information about the candidates? So that's one element of it. But equally, we also need, as part of our data requirements, need to track statistics that help us in being trying to go for grants to support this. And whenever we try and go for grants, we need to provide data on, like how many kids are we reaching, how many school districts, et cetera. So we need someone to help us with tracking the data that we're going to need to generate around this program for reporting purposes primarily.
Great, thanks, Donna. And last but not least is Joe Jed, who's head of our voter registration initiative overall for our league and is doing that for this project as well.
So as part of these presentations at the tail end, we don't want it to run into the presentation and take up time from the presentation, but our goal is to get everybody that's eligible to register to vote to do it in real time at the presentation when it's top of mind. And because, you leave the presentation and you forget. So we would like to have hopefully 2 volunteers, if not more, at each event who are not going to be part of the presentation, but will be there to help people register to vote. We would wait, as I said, to the end of the program. We'd like them to register in real time. We have, you can go use a QR code to go directly to the government website and register immediately. And since these kids are very fluent in using their phones, it's very easy for them to do that. Then we can be there to help them out, help them figure out what they need to do. And then we'd also like to encourage them to download the NJ Elections app. I hope you guys are all familiar with this app. If you could go ahead 2 slides to the last slide. There, if you guys haven't seen this app that you can download, it has a massive amount of information. It's a great website. It's great to have it on your phone. We want the students to do this so that they can use it. It's full of information and it's very easy. So anyone that wants to volunteer for the voter registration sign up, we're going to handle it the way we do with the regular previous voter registration events. We're going to post it on the league website once we have the event set up, and people can just go and volunteer. We would just ask that people commit. If you commit to the time, make sure you can show up because it's hard to find people last minute.
Great, thanks, Joe. So it looks like we have, we're going to stop screen sharing. We have some chats moving on here, and we can all talk. People can raise their hand for questions or comments. Probably best to use the raise hand function, or you can move your hand. Oh, Pat.
Hi, thanks, Susan. Barry, I want to work with you. I'm the head of Energizing Young Voters, which is a program of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey. And we've already done exactly what you described. So I think we need to get together and make sure that we've got the power of both groups of people working in the same direction. Maybe you'll see some holes. One of the holes that's there right now is a digital citizenship one, but we are working on that right now. But maybe you'll see something else. But any of the schools that you go into that are interested, Susan and I have talked about this, that are interested in taking it beyond that one day, this is a wealth of really good stuff that impacts kids to the point. The last time I did one of the early presentations was the day after Election Day. And I asked, how many of you voted yesterday? This was at Monmouth University. And I got 2 hands. Jeez. And I said at the end, if I'd been in here the day before Election Day, how many of you would have voted? And everybody's hand went up. So that's the kind of power that these are. They're really well written, easy to use. Teachers can pick it up and just run with it because there's a script for them to use with each one of the slideshows. So take a look at it and see if it is something that you think is going to enhance what you're already doing. What you're doing is great. I'm not, not saying anything negative about that. I really, really am impressed, but there's so much more that is right in your backyard. So let's have a look.
Thank you, Pat. Absolutely.
Annette?
My question was just to ask whether or not the packet or the information that's presented to the students will be inclusive of a mock ballot so that they're able to, for the first-time voters, see what that looks like.
Have we done that before?
I always have them with me. You know, I have a mock ballot with me. So if it came up, I could show. We don't have a slide on it now because honestly, the program is so tight right now. You know, if we get bogged down in explaining about it, but it is a very good idea. I think if we have, like, if we do the 90-minute version, Annette, I think that's an excellent suggestion because the ballots are confusing. The mail-in ballots, we know that people have trouble understanding, you know, how to use them. So I think walking kids, especially for the first time, through a ballot is a good idea. If we can.
Well, even if time doesn't allow, because I know this is taking place with the social studies teacher, I believe, if I'm correct in saying that.
Or the history teachers or the history teachers, whichever discipline the principal thinks will allow us to reach the most, be most effective.
Okay,
Social studies, history, and there's some other classes that students take in the high schools that they thought would fit so that we could reach a lot of students with in smaller groups.
well, with those teachers, maybe if we were able to even leave mock ballots with them for further discussion as the teacher moves on, to add to the conversation the next day or the next class.
I mean, certainly, and as we get the mock ballots in, I love the idea of even just sending it to the teacher as a follow-up
Mm-hmm.
and say, it's now available for your district, you know, can you take a time to run people through it?
Right.
And,
Because
and,
it's
and
nothing
to be
like going in.
careful,
I'm
there
sorry,
is-
go ahead.
we want to be a little bit careful because there's no generic ballot. It
No.
depends on your district and what election you're voting in, because they vary from, you know, place to place. So we could capture the ballots that we know are coming up and what they're going to look like and get those out. Because the
Yeah.
first election that these students will have the opportunity to vote in, if we can get started in March, would be the school board elections that happen in many districts in April.
April.
Well, even if it's a mock ballot where it doesn't have actual current names of people who are running, but just so that they are not getting to cast their ballot and not know what they're doing. You know,
I agree wholeheartedly, but they can look different. We
okay,
wouldn't put names of people on, we like Mickey Mouse,
Correct.
Donald Duck.
yeah,
They look different for different elections in different districts. So we can do that for sure, I think. I just wanted us to be aware of that.
correct, okay. Thank you.
Good idea. Diane? Diane Doherty? Still there? Check.
Yeah, I had to find the unmute button. I'm just wondering, these kids are like 17 or whatever. I mean, they don't have to have their parents' permission to register to vote, do they?
No,
No.
Okay,
don't.
and what about private schools being reached? You know, I know there's a Golda Ox, I think, in West Orange, and Essex Catholic and Immaculate in Montclair, and
Yes, Diane, we're targeting all the charter schools, public schools and private schools in
okay.
Essex County, and there are many.
but if you
Uh-huh.
know someone at Golda Ox, please ask them to respond in West Orange, because Seton Hall Prep, they responded, they're interested. I've reached out to Golda Ox, but I haven't heard back from anybody there. So if you have a connection there, if you could whisper in their ear that you support this and it's a great idea, so they could get back and sign up, that would be terrific.
Unfortunately, I don't. I just know that school because I pass by it a lot
Oh,
when
okay.
I'm going somewhere. But if you want me to call them, I'd be happy to.
I would like that if you don't mind. That would
Sure. And then my last question is, what about parents knowing ahead of time that this is going to happen, and maybe if they're not registered to vote, would they be able to maybe sit in the back and then register at the same time?
That's an interesting idea. Or maybe something could be sent home with the student and they could register together or something.
Right, or once the student learns how, well, they might not go home and teach their parent how to do it, but I'm just thinking there's probably parents who are not registered.
Yeah.
And if they're not working or they're around that day, if they could come also and learn why it's important and.
Sure. Yeah, I know the Orange Social Studies department chair definitely wanted to include parents in some of this. Again, that's kind of the fan. It's not the kind of our targeted area, but that's definitely a good.
And we can
Mhm.
certainly bring take home register to vote forms to hand out.
Sure, that's a great idea.
But you know, we should give it to them.
Yes, yes.
I have found when you take them home, many times they don't get filled out. You know that. So if we could either have them come and sit in the back of the room, you know, that's a great idea. If they would like to sit and visit, listen to the presentation, you know.
Right.
I just have us think about the impact of having your parents sit in the back of the room. I've been in the business long enough to know that's
true.
a chilling
That's
effect.
true.
A chilling effect, as we say.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. But I'm afraid if you just give it to them, they're not going to fill it out. They haven't voted in all these years. They're not going to all of a sudden see the light.
Yeah.
But the kids could help them register online on their phones.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be fine if the kids, you know, would do that with them.
Get extra credit.
That's
Well,
a
certainly,
great
once we've
idea.
shown the kids how you can sign up online, it's certainly something that they can take home and introduce to their parents.
Yes, yes.
Can I pop in again? Again, we have a student advocate toolkit in the Energizing Young Voters suite on voting. It was developed for schools during COVID. And what it does is it helps students help other people in their households or in their communities figure out what their issue is, learn how to register online and in person. During primaries, it explains what a primary is. And it's with the QR code, they can load this onto their phone, and there are title slides, so they can just flip through to find exactly what they need to explain to somebody else or exactly what form they need. It's very easy to use, and we've done it specifically for the purpose that you're talking about, so that parents don't have to sit in the back of the room.
Okay, no, you're right. You're right. You're right.
To actually be advocates for voting for their communities.
Great, thanks, Pat. Sharon?
Hi, good afternoon. I wanted to know if you could repeat, you mentioned several schools in the very beginning. I know you've done Orange, and you mentioned some other ones. Could you mention those again? Have you actually gone into those, or those ones that you have contacted and you think you're going to have some success with? Because you mentioned a whole bunch of schools and I wasn't able to get all of them.
Sure, so we've done Orange High School, and we've done NJ Leap a couple of times. And then what we have scheduled for this year is we have Bloomfield High in April 19th, and Nutley High in February 17th. And also NJ Leap wants us back for the third or fourth time at this point.
Nutley was when? February when?
Nutley
What about
was
Montclair High?
February
17th, February 17th.
February 17th, okay.
Have you approached Montclair High?
I know, I think Ron had Montclair High in the initial round a month or so ago. There was some challenges with Montclair High, but I think I saw the Montclair Town Team folks on this call. And I know they have had good, Jane O'Leary I see is on the call. So I know they've had good luck with them with voter registration. So maybe we could work together to get into those classes as well. I see her shaking her head. Yes, thank you, Jane. Thanks, Sharon. Shelley?
Hi, I just want to say I'm paying attention to the chat, and I see a lot of folks asking if for the different schools that they may have affiliation with. Can you please reach out to Joyce or myself, or Hug, come join us. Because if you have a foothold so we can get in, most definitely, you know, because we're trying to get into these schools, but if you work there or you know somebody or contact, that's a plus. That could be nothing but a plus.
Shelley, maybe you can put yours and your address, your email address in the chat.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
And Joyce's too. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Jeanette?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Good evening, everyone. I was listening to Pat's idea and the program that she has in place to help inform the students as well as parents. What my suggestion is, and I don't know if you've done it already, is to contact the Board of Eds, present them with the letter, present them with the possibility of letting them let you present to a board meeting and indicate what kinds of things you'd like to do. Because to my understanding, 17-year-olds would still, because they're minors, have to have their parents' permission to vote. Maybe I'm wrong. No, they don't.
No.
They do not. They do not.
Okay, then.
No.
Well, okay. Well, then making sure that parents are on board with it and certainly understand. And I think having a presentation at the board so that gives you the it makes you part of the civics program. And with their approval, I would imagine you could go in and work with the social studies teachers, history teachers, et cetera, civics teachers, all of those wonderful teachers, and have your program evolve the way you really want it to, because the plan is phenomenal and it's necessary.
Great. Thanks, Jeanette.
Well,
I just want to clarify one thing about that. You can register to vote at 17, but you cannot vote till you're 18.
That's right. Yeah.
But you register to vote at 17 because you'll be eligible to vote if
Right.
you're 18 for the next election. So
Right.
that's why we're focusing on juniors and seniors, and they'll be able to vote at the next election if they will be 18 by the next election.
okay, thank you for that.
Susan, can I
Sure.
say something about Board of Ed? Hi, I'm Lyle Landon. I was in Montclair for 30 years and I'm happy to be able to be part of this conversation, but I'm with the League of Women Voters now in Sarasota, where we've relocated. There are 3 towns currently, 2 of them outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland and Berkeley, California, where they have passed laws so that 16 and 17-year-olds can vote in Board of Election elections.
Oh, wow.
So it's very exciting, and they have actual data that shows that a lot of people don't vote in school board elections because they don't have a kid in school. They don't know anything about the candidates, so they figure they should not vote. And now that kids are allowed to vote, voting has more than doubled in some of these towns. So, and of course, then if you could get them at 16 or 17, then that's an earlier on-ramp to be voting for anything. But that's a 2-step process. It's getting the towns to say, yes, the 16 and 17-year-olds can vote. And then, of course, getting them registered. But I shared with Susan a play that I wrote about that, a 15-minute play. I'd be happy to send that to anybody if you're interested, and just sort of looking at it from sort of an arts approach to it rather than just a informational thing. The information is the most important part, so don't let me lead it in any other direction.
Thanks, Lyle. Noreen?
Wait a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to find out who, maybe Shelley answered this question. I need to talk to somebody because I have access to the entire junior class at St. Benedict's every day. I'm working with them. So we don't have to go through headmasters or head of departments or anything. You just go through me, and so it can be quite direct. And it just came to me because I had spoken with Ron a while ago about him talking to the head of the history department. But then I realized you can talk to me because I see these kids, the whole junior class. So, or I work with them. So I just want to know who I should talk to, because we could get this going pretty quickly. I'm with them from now, or from the beginning of the term, right after New Year's through the end of April. And it's a college guidance class. So fits fine.
Yeah, just send me your information and I'll reach out to you and we will
Okay.
definitely have a
All right,
conversation.
I'll send you my email and
Yes.
my cell phone.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll do it on the chat, okay?
Okay,
All
thanks.
right, thanks.
Thanks, Noreen. Beth?
Yes, I put something in the Q&A, but I just thought I would mention it verbally. One thing you were talking, there was a considerable amount of discussion a few minutes ago about involving the parents and ways that you might want to do that. It strikes me that maybe if you're going into a school, to reach out to the PTA, maybe even do a program for them. But that's and in a lot of schools they're quite active, and they can be quite helpful, and that's a way to reach the parents directly and get their cooperation as you go ahead and reach out to the students, and vice versa, get the students knowing that their parents are involved. So I just thought I would mention that.
No, that's a good idea. Thanks, Beth. Annette?
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to mention that we can incorporate the use of information in regard to positive peer pressure, because of the last couple of elections. The vote has turned on the votes that came in from the younger children, the younger people. And if we're able to present it as a catch the wave kind of thing, be a part of that movement, maybe we could encourage and stimulate more involvement from the young voters, where they feel not just that we're telling them that they have the power and we get them to feel empowered, but we show them where the young voters have stepped up in the last elections and made a huge difference. So, positive peer pressure, positive information. No, young teens don't want to be left out of the trend. So maybe we can use that as a way of motivation, as a form of motivation too.
Well, I was thinking in publicity was more about, outside of the school, but I like the publicity angle inside the school, and I think Amy had mentioned the fun graphics and doing something inside the school, posters or, something in the hallways to get them, excited and catch the wave. I like that.
I'm involved with the Montclair Community Pre-K, which every week sends out a long message. So I would imagine that, and those of you with kids in other schools could verify. I imagine every school sends out emails. We could, since we're not for profit, we could ask them to put the QR code as part of their chain close to the election, and try and get people to, the parents can just do it online from their phones.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Kathy? Oh, you're still on mute, Kathy.
We have a young man on our school board who's like an advocate for, he goes to all the school board meetings. And it was very funny that they just recently had a dance that no one showed up. So a lot of the things that we thought kids were involved with and wanted to go to a big dance and all this, they're not really showing up for that. What they're looking into now more social justice work. So I think, I don't know if that's happening in other schools, where they're just, my grandson just went to his first dance at his high school, and he said it was boring, and it was like, that type of, setup. And so I think that the kids are looking more for activities to get involved with the social justice, get involved with voting. So I think we can just get them, like, again, what Barry said about the committees, a new club, something to offer them, to offer the schools, because I think that's another way we reach them, to get involved.
Yes, great. I know that Livingston has a league, a junior league, so to speak, at the high school.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great avenue,
Yeah.
just civic or voting club, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. Maggie?
Just unmute. Hi, everybody. I have a question about the curriculum and the entry points. I was wondering if has the curriculum been formalized yet? And if it has, can we see it and have input into it, or just to review it? And does it align, or has this even been explored? Does it align with the Energize Young Voters curriculum that Pat was talking about? So that we don't duplicate the curriculum, or are we even at that stage yet?
That's a question for Barry.
Yeah, so Maggie, that's a great point. I'd say that the lesson plan that we have is certainly not set in stone. And I actually should have mentioned, and it's a good point, that another piece of work for a curriculum committee would be to take a look at it and review it. And it should not be anything that is fixed. It should be evolving. So we have something that it has changed over time, but certainly it should be looked at and tweaked some more. So I think that would be one of the roles of the curriculum group. And as far as the alignment with the Energizing Young Voters, I think we've spent so much time just creating this one piece that we haven't really had the manpower or the energy to see what else is out there and where the alignments and where the gaps and where the good fits are. So that certainly is the next order of business. And what Pat says about utilizing what's already been created, I mean, absolutely, that just makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you. I'm retired from East Side in Newark.
Oh.
So I know teenagers pretty well by now, and I have a couple teenage grandkids. So I'd be interested in working on the curriculum.
Great.
Wonderful.
Add you to the list, Maggie.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. I love all the dialogue and the suggestions, ideas, questions. It's wonderful.
And also all the volunteers, hopefully new volunteers,
yes,
which is great because we need all the help that we can get, because this is it's not hard work, but it's very rewarding work. But it is, you do need to chase the details, to get into the schools, get the scheduling, find the presenters, get them trained, follow up. So we need all the help that we can get. It's great.
Well, if I dare say, my co-conspirator, Annette, also has something more to say. So
Yeah, very, very quickly, I just want to, because it was early on in the chat, but I did drop an email for presenters. I saw that a couple of people said that they would like to volunteer to present. So kind of just really building off where Donna left it, I want to pick up the ball and say, please, I'll drop my email in the text again, in the chat again. And please text me if you are interested in being a presenter.
yes. Great. Well, I'm all for efficient, quick meetings. So we don't think we have to stay until 8 if everybody's with all their questions. So unless somebody has a burning desire, Carol, I guess.
Yeah.
Carol.
I just want to know if I signed up to be a presenter at the December meeting at the Women's Club.
Yes.
So you have my data. I don't need to reach out again to Annette.
That's correct. We have your information.
Okay. Thank you,
Carol. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if anybody, I'll save the chat because it's been a lot. So I will save it, review it afterwards and connect anybody to whoever wants to be connected. So no worries on that front.
Is
Great
there a
job,
hope that we can
everybody.
go to some of the social media like the Secret Montclair and the patch and all of that with the QR code periodically?
Yes, yes. And that's something that we have done in the past. Right now, the league, I'm not talking about our other collaborators, but as typically, we don't have a communications chair right now, but we have done that in the past, you know, and done that. So, and we plan to do that in the future.
Great program.
Thanks. Well, thanks everybody for coming and their.
I think Shelley wanted to say something.
I'm
again.
sorry, Shelley. You're on mute.
You're muted.
You're still muted.
I'm sorry. Amy McCampbell, you put in the chat about West Orange, but could you put your email so I can reach out to you? Thank you.
Kelly, did you have a connection with Arts High?
No.
I can get you one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear me? It's Felice Harrison Crawford. I oversee the digital backpack for the Montclair Public Schools. I put in the chat that there's a link on our website to the digital backpack request. It reaches over 6,000 families of the Montclair Public Schools. So if you wanted to submit any informational flyers and you have in the past, you can use that link and we can push that information out. And the principals also of all of the schools shares that information monthly. Some of them do it weekly with their parent body and their students.
Fabulous, Felice.
Thank you, Felice. There was a.
I wish they had that when my kids were in school.
I know.
So someone asked about copies of the slides available. Yes. So what we plan to do for everyone who registered, we will send a copy of the slides and a copy of the recording so that you can also share it. I know some folks weren't able to make it. If you have friends or family that want to be part of this, once you're all excited and talking about it, when you get, you know, tomorrow, that would be great.
You know what, Susan, we should also maybe update the slides to put in all the contact information.
Yes.
For
Very
like
good
the
point.
league, you know, so
Very
not
good
to worry, you'll know who to contact for any element of this program that you want to be involved in.
Yes. And I have one question. Maggie, do you still have contacts at Eastside High?
It's been a while since I retired, but I can try.
Okay, that would be great. I don't think that specific school has been reached out to.
Okay.
Great. And I will get you in touch with Barry. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. I know it is a yucky night, but it's nice to be able to connect on Zoom and move forward on this wonderful program. And thanks, I you know, hands down to Barry. When he first joined the league, he was very, just like all of us with the voter registration. You had these young people saying, I don't want to register to vote, and it just breaks your heart. And Barry said, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. And this is his baby. He created this back in 2019.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Barry. Bravo.
The work has just begun. So
Right,
good to have
right.
good to have partners in the work, and Pat, all the good work you've done as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Donna, you wanna say
everybody.
anything
Thank
else?
you so much, Susan, for putting this together.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Good night.